Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Kiki and this is Island's True Crime, where we talk about the unheard true crime stories from the Caribbean. Today we're gonna talk about the Tarara crimes in Havana, Cuba. Let's take a little trip to the beautiful island of Cuba, known by La Habana, its capital city, or Viñales, their most colorful and wonderful city. Cuba is known for taking us back in time to the 1950s, surrounded by pastel-colored homes, cars from the 50s, and colonial Spanish architecture. We are heading to Tarara, which is a gated resort town in the municipality of Habana del Este, in Havana, Cuba. This resort community was built in 1940s, and with its Art Deco style, it faces the Atlantic Ocean. Now that you know where we are heading, what happened in Tarara? Why 4 men lost their lives there? Who was Rolando Pérez Quintosa? How these crimes change Cuba's history? Let's find out on this episode. Now that we have landed in the beautiful island of Cuba, and now that we know all the beautiful things that we can find there, we are going to talk of the not so beautiful things. We are talking about the crime of Tarara. This is a crime that changed everything in Cuba and that made everyone aware of what was happening on that naval base. So let's jump into that. Taking the life of someone is repulsive. Taking the lives of disarmed and tied men, it's a monstrosity. Those were the words of Fidel Castro while saying the last goodbye to Rolando Pérez Quintosa. It all started in 1992. Tarara had boats for children to entertain them by taking them out to sea, as they had Chernobyl survivors there, and they wanted to keep them entertained. It was called the City of the Pioneers. The plan of Tarara had stopped, as it was a short-term plan, but they kept the boats at the Naval Base. On a small house in front of the pier, the frontier guards made the rounds. It's a beautiful, small, Spanish-looking home, painted in blue with white details. But what happened there on January 9th of 1992?
Buenas noches. Estos son los titulares. Despidió Raúl el duelo de los combatientes caídos. Detenidos los asesinos. Indignación del pueblo por los crímenes.
Well, on that quiet night, on that little blue house, the guards were watching the naval base. At 12 a.m., Orosman Dueñas Valero arrived to his shift. There was Rafael Guevara Borges making his rounds. At some point, Luis Miguel Alameida approached Orosman. Orosman knew him as they have worked together and they consider him a friend. But Alameida wasn't working anymore with them, as he was accused of SA and being investigated for saying a female co-worker.
Porque defendió joven así como era, un niño como era, mimado como yo lo crié siendo padre yo y madre de él.
While Alameida was talking to Orosman, a group of people was approaching the little house from behind. Even one of them climbed in the roof of the little blue house. Yes, it was an ambush planned by Alameida to steal a boat. Luis Miguel Alameida had recruited a group of 5 men, 2 women, and a 4-year-old toddler. One of those men was a fisherman, so he can navigate the boat. Those men were armed with machetes, metal pipe, blades, and one of them carried a big metal wrench. 4 of those men broke into the house violently, hitting the officers there. The guards responded heroically, but they were outnumbered. Orosman didn't have a weapon, as he has left it inside the guard's house to talk to Alameida. When everything happened, Orosman takes his weapon, but one of the robbers grabs it from him. That man used the back of the bayonet to hit Orosman in the head. They tied him and took over the nautical base. While this was happening, Rafael Guevara wasn't mobile because he was hit by one of the men on the head. Then 3 of those men head over to the pier. One stayed behind watching over Orosman and Rafael. But that man was afraid of being left, so he also went to the pier. Another guard that was close when he heard all the commotion came back and found Orosman and Rafael tied on the floor. He went to the other officers and told them, so Yuri Gomez Reinoso and Rolando Pérez Quintosa took a bicycle, went to rescue Orosman and Rafael. They didn't see the 8 people on the pier, so they went inside to the little blue house. Yuri and Rolando started to untie their co-workers, but one of the women heard the commotion and alerted Alameida, who grabbed a weapon and headed to the house.
El campamento de pioneros José Martí en Tarara para secuestrar una lancha en la cual llegar a la Florida. Los incitaba el constante llamado desde Estados Unidos a la migración irregular.
En aquel momento no se estaban cumpliendo los acuerdos migratorios, se estimula el éxodo descontrolado, peligroso, hay una restricción de la entrega de visas, miles de horas de transmisiones incitando a la violencia, a la desobediencia civil, la realización de acciones terroristas en el interior del país, hacer todo lo posible para ir erosionando las bases de la revolución.
Rolando saw Alameida coming with a weapon and drawn out his weapon and tells Alameida, "Give up, you are surrounded." Alameida's response was a burst of weapon fire. That first burst aimed at Orosman and Rafael. When Alameida went into the house, Orosman told him, "You are killing me, mother." Beep. Alameida, standing in front of Orosman, who is still tied, proceed to shoot again. By this time, he has taken the lives of Yuri and Orosman. Rafael was outside, and when Alameida comes out, Rafael tells him, "Luis Miguel, we were friends," to which Alameida responded, "In moments like this, I have no friends." Then he proceeded to shoot him 9 times. Miraculously, he was still alive. But another man from the group, called Rene, grabbed Yuri's weapon and ended the life of Rafael. After all the shooting, the group of robbers left the Naval Base and hid. But Rolando Pérez Quintosa, who was only 23 years old at this time, was badly wounded, but still alive. When the first group of medics arrived, Rolando started telling them what happened.
Entonces él toma el fusil y viene hacia acá. Rolando Pérez Quintosa, que está en el apartamento, lo ve y saca el arma y le dice, "Ríndete que tú estás rodeado." Y él, como respuesta, lo que hace es que mete una ráfaga. Esa primera ráfaga alcanza a Orosman y a Pérez Quintosa. Y bueno, él le entra después a la casita y Orosman está vivo. Y le dice, "Hijo de puta, me estás matando." Entonces se para delante de Orosman, que está amarrado, y le mete un rafagazo. Ya está muerto Yuri, está muerto. Y Rafael no ha recibido un solo balazo. Entonces, cuando él va saliendo y ve a Rafael, Rafael lo mira y le dice, "Luis Miguel, fuimos amigos." Dice, en momentos como estos yo no tengo miedo. Y le mete un rafagazo de 9 proyectiles.
The doctors that got there found the most horrific scene they have ever seen. Those doctors were used to work with children, as they were doctors on the children's hospital. After attending to Rolando's wounds, finally an ambulance arrived. He needed to be attended in the hospital. When he was picked up by the ambulance and they were on the way to the hospital, the ambulance burst a tire and they weren't able to get to the hospital. Policemen arrived so they could help Rolando get to the hospital, and he started telling them who was the one that concocted this plan to steal the boat. It was their friend, the one that had worked with them, Luis Miguel Alameida, the one that was investigated for SAing one of their co-workers. But you may ask yourself, why all of this happened? It happened because they wanted the American dream. They wanted to go to the land of opportunity, to make a life, to start a life.
4 horas luego del suceso, demoró la captura de 3 de los que perpetraron el hecho. Luego fue arrestado el resto del grupo, quienes fueron juzgados el 2 de febrero de ese año. Solo Rolando Pérez Quintosa sobrevivió pocas semanas.
Rolando Pérez Quintosa succumbed to his wounds on February 16, 1992. When investigating, the guards found out who was Luis Miguel Alameida, and the guards took only 26 hours to capture everyone involved in the town of Boca de Maria. The prisoners were caught, and justice was served. Luis Miguel Alameida Pérez and René Salmerón Mendoza were sentenced to death, and the sentence was executed on February 19, 1992. Elias Pérez Betancourt served 27 years in prison of 30. Pedro de la Rosa was sentenced to 15 years. Esperanza Atienzo was sentenced to 10 years. Miterglis Ponce to 4 years. Maria Mendoza sentenced to 10 years. Eric Salamerón was sentenced to 25 years. But that won't change that Rolando Pérez Quintosa, Orosman Dueñas Valero, Rafael Guevara Borges, and Yuri Gomez Reinoso lost their life on that little house that was blue with beautiful white details. Even the president, Fidel Castro, say some powerful words.
Asesinar es repugnante. Asesinar a hombres desarmados y amarrados es sencillamente monstruoso.
Fidel Castro was the one to say the last goodbye to Rolando Pérez Quintosa. He made a speech because he used to go to his mother's house and spend time with her. He even drank coffee with Rolando's mother. But after that, it is said that Fidel never went back to her house. He was heartbroken because of what happened in Tarara. The 4 men were treated as heroes and were given a burial like heroes. All the community went with them to their last resting place. It was a community effort, and they were loved by everyone there.
Y ya con la primera información, mi compañera Rosalía Arnáez.
Gracias, Edel. En horas de la tarde de hoy fueron sepultados en el Panteón de las Fuerzas Armadas Revolucionarias los combatientes del Ministerio del Interior, sargento de tercera Yuri Gomez Reinoso y el CBP Rafael Guevara Borges. El general de ejército Raúl Castro, ministro de las FARC, despidió el duelo de nuestros héroes.
Trying to go beyond political views, what are your thoughts on these crimes? 4 men lost their lives because 8 wanted to escape to the land of freedom. Do you think it was fair to end their lives while they were tied, defenseless? They could have just left and forget about that night. It would have been easier. But they decided to go back and finish the job. I want to know your thoughts, so go ahead in the comments below and let me know what you think about the crimes of Tarara. For me, this was horrendous, and it didn't need it to happen. But I want to know what you think. Do you think that it was worth it? Do you think that the price of freedom is the life of someone else? That the price of living your situation, your current situation, means that you need or you can take the lives of 4 innocent men. This one is a complex one if we don't want to go into political things. But go ahead, let me know.